Welcome everyone to another amazing clash between these two giants on your screen. Hikaru Nakamura with the white pieces and Magnus Carlsen with black at the Tech Mahindra Global Chess League. The last time they were pitted against each other was a very exciting game. We were treated to some fantastic chess, but that time it was Magnus who had the white pieces, and now it's Hikaru, the American Gambits versus Alpine SG Pipers. This is going to be a very exciting clash, and the thing is, with both of them playing, there's always something to look forward to for the chess fans, and both the teams are vying for the top two spots to finish in the finals. The guests ask, should I make the opening move? Which one should I make? Hikaru says it's your choice. They shake hands, and Hikaru instantly wants to take the pawn back. He does it. The arbiter comes in to start the game. They shake hands and 1b3. Look at Magnus there being slightly surprised by Hikaru's choice of 1b3, and Hikaru looking very calm and confident, looking at other games, how they are happening. Clearly he wants to unsettle Magnus Carlsen here. Magnus, who is well known for his openings. Hikaru says, now Magnus, are you prepared for my 1b3, bishop b2, attacking the pawn? Knight comes out, pawn comes up to e3. The bishop wants to develop on this diagonal, so Magnus trying to be a little bit tricky there. d4, because once the bishop comes here, you neutralize this bishop. He takes, and knight f3, wants to take back with the knight, but Magnus instantly gives a check. Now notice how if you play knight d2, which Hikaru does, there is an option of sacrificing the rook because you can actually win the knight on d2. But he goes knight f6. Magnus doesn't opt for that sharp line, which is a pity because it would have led to some very interesting ideas. Knight takes d4 taken, and he pushes his knight to e4. Hikaru brings his knight back. Magnus castles. The opening seems to have gone here in black's favor, or it's just around even. You can say that the position is not at all favoring a side. Magnus plays d5, now solidifying the knight, bringing out the bishop. Pawn to c3, bishop comes back, and he pushes his pawn even further ahead. Take, and queen takes d2. Yes, he takes it. Queen takes d2 on the board. Magnus thinking now what to do. He takes the pawn. He's actually going for the queen trade. Bishop takes c4. And he goes back with the bishop. There's trades happening. Bishop takes on d2. A lot of exchanges on the board. But we have some imbalances here to play with. There are 3 pawns for black here, 2 for white. Hikaru asks the question to the bishop, and Magnus takes. You can take with the knight as well, but you can also take with the king. He takes with the king. Will he go for knight a5? That would be something, because knight a5 attacks the bishop, cannot move because b3 would fall. Magnus plays it. Knight a5 on the board. He goes knight e5, attacking this bishop now. The position is getting interesting. Magnus takes on c4. He takes with the pawn. But now, after bishop goes back, isn't this slightly better for black? Black is pressing here. He goes king c3, f6 to kick the knight away. This might well be one of Magnus's nice endgame grinds. The knight comes back to f3. But Hikaru is a phenomenal defender. He pushes the pawn, takes away the d4 square from the knight. The rook comes in to trade, and he brings his knight to e1. Pawn to b6 played, and he wants to push the bishop away. Something like e4, knight c2, knight e3, knight d5 is what Hikaru wants to do, and he's doing it. Bishop goes back, and Hikaru is going forward with that plan. Magnus tries to break it up by pushing f5 here, which is a nice move. takes, pawn takes. He doesn't take with the bishop here because bishop takes knight e3 and then the knight is anyway jumping here. So he takes with the pawn. Pawn to f4. Magnus trades rooks. And now rook to e8. Will Magnus be able to create something out of nothing here? He's known for his endgame play. He's the god of endgame chess, the GOAT. But Hikaru Nakamura is known for his defensive abilities. And here he's pressing. Now look at this. Magnus wants to play pawn to h4, create a weakness here. But Hikaru's move is so amazing. Knight e1. Because the moment you push, he wants to go up and then jump here and here. So to push the pawn is not easy. So Magnus plays with his king. And now Hikaru moves his knight up the board. Magnus has to wait. He trades the rooks. Hikaru says, sorry Magnus, I'm not trading today. And I am actually threatening to bring my knight in. So he moves the king. And he brings his rook back to trade. Rook takes rook, king takes. And king comes back to e7. If he can get the king here and the queenside majority rolling, it would be very cool. a6 played on the board. And a4. Now if you go and attack here, the king will come and defend it. So king d6 played by Magnus. And this a4 move is a little bit irritating for Magnus because he can't break with b5 anymore. The knight jumps in. The battle between the bishop and knight is always very exciting for everyone to learn the imbalances between the two pieces in its purest form. Because the knight can jump on both color complexes while the bishop has to control only one. So many times beginners prefer to have knights over bishops. But top players know that it's not just the bishop, it's also the way the pawns are placed, the way in which the king is playing in the game, and everything together can help a bishop often outplay a knight. So pawn to h3. He goes king d6. King b2, both of them unable to find a way to make their king get into the position. Magnus moves his king. Hikaru moves up. And they repeat. They are finding repetition here. And they shake hands. A draw. A very correct game by both sides. And Magnus neutralizes Hikaru's 1b3 quite effectively in this game with his opening idea, which might well be worth repeating. This very fact that he gave a check instead of putting his bishop on g7 is something very cool that he did in this position. And with this draw, the Alpine SG Pipers later went on to win.